All right.
Yep.
Excellent. All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Tipple's weekly virtual wine tasting with Elizabeth and Jeff Vaudrey, the owners of Tipple's Brews and Wine in Gainesville, Florida. This week, we're going to be enjoying the Grgich Hills Napa Valley Fume Blanc. I wanted to have a white that, you know, here it is, a United States white, but I think a lot of people say Fume Blanc. What are we drinking?
Right.
Tonight, we're going to answer that question.
Jeff, what are we drinking?
We're going to drink Fume Blanc. You know what Fume Blanc is? It's
Something
Sauvignon.
white.
It's Sauvignon Blanc. It's Sauvignon Blanc, but aged in wine barrels, aged in oak barrels.
Okay.
So it gets a little bit of an oak to it. There's a whole history to it, which we will discuss later. Shocker, I do that all the time. So anyway, we will discuss that later. In the meantime, I hope you chilled it down to around 40 degrees. About 1 hour in the fridge will get you where you want to be. And it's time to pour and get our initial thoughts on this beautiful wine. Actually, I really, really like this wine. It's one of my favorite wines. So.
Not to bias anyone.
Yeah, feel free to say you don't like it. And
then Jeff will judge you.
That's right. There will be the Jeff judging. All right. Oh, you get a little of that fume, the smokiness right on the nose, minerality. That is where the name came from. Fume, the French for a bit of a mist or smokiness. And that is because of the minerality, high minerality of a well-grown Sauvignon Blanc combined with the barrel aging gives you a little bit of that smoky quality.
Okay, I definitely get the minerality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get the smokiness.
You don't perceive it as smoke?
I perceive it as minerality. Like yeah, minerals definitely, but to me, it doesn't smell smoky.
To me, I get a little, it's kind of that, barrel and mineral play. I get a little bit of a
you're going to get more than I'm going to get from
right.
it. So.
All right, this guy is 100% Sauvignon Blanc, 13.5% alcohol. So right in there, call it a 3/4 upper level alcohol content for a white. And it's definitely a dry wine, so not a sweet. And acidity is going to be high. It is still Sauvignon Blanc. So it's going to be nice and tart.
Hey, Jeff, very, very first impression, I get the minerality as well, but it kind of sat on my tongue a bit, very smooth and silky.
Yes, I love that you said that, Paul, because we're going to cover exactly why that would be and why that's not necessarily normal for a Sauv Blanc. Mm-hmm. So excellent observation, by the way, really good. So bright citrus notes. I mean, this is Sauvignon Blanc still, so you're going to get a lot of citrus, bright tartness, a nice herbiness on this guy, which I think the barrel just brings out. Sauvignon Blanc often has, in fact, maybe we'll jump over to discuss. Anyway, Sauvignon Blanc often has a bit of an herbal lemongrass quality to it anyway. And I think, to me, the little bit of barrel aging it gets kind of pulls it right out and makes it a little more front and center.
Yeah, I get that. Would you like for me to share?
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump back. And we'll talk about Sauvignon Blanc grape for a little bit.
Or jump to.
Did I say on?
You said back. Right. Which you don't.
All right, so let's go with pairings. That's the first thing. So chicken, smoked fish, salmon, scallops, lobster, sushi, and wild mushroom salad.
Well, and I know that Jerry and Harriet paired it with salmon tonight because she sent me pictures and my mouth literally started watering. So
nice call. There is just so much going on in this glass. I love it. So this is it's got real good, it's got some excellent flexibility. Sauvignon Blanc from around the world can have very different expressions. And some of them are more food friendly than others. This one is definitely a food friendly expression, which will nicely.
What would make something not food friendly? Because I think everything we drink, we're like, and if you pair it with this, you can always taste it even better.
You can always pair it, but sometimes they can be a little heavy handed. For example, and I'm not hating on these wines, but There is, if you went with a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, some of the less expensive, they're just casual drinkers. They can be hard to pair without overwhelming what you're eating. Because there's so much grapefruit and so much lemongrass.
Okay.
I call them like kind of almost a rough edged Sauvignon Blanc, and those can really overwhelm what you're doing.
Okay.
So that would be my thought there. Moving on, please. Thank you. All right, Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc grape would be what I was trying to say. The name origin comes from France. It is actually native to France. That's where this grape comes from. And it just is indigenous, which I think is awfully fun. So it comes from the French word sauvage, so meaning wild. So savage, sauvage, the cognate. It's wild, so it's native. It's a native grape.
That's really cool.
Yeah, which I think is awfully fun. And one of the parent grapes of Cabernet Sauvignon.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, right? And you're like, how? Why is this intense red grape have one of its parents as a white grape? But it does. The other side of that is Cab Franc. So this guy, let's go ahead to the next one, please. Very common flavors: gooseberry, honeydew melon, grapefruit, white peach, passion fruit. That's where if you get a little more of the French on the white peach and the passion fruit, you can get a little mandarin orange, which I do like. When you are on the New Zealand side, particularly cold growth, you're getting a lot more grapefruit, and then the herbacity comes out, which is that lemongrass. You can get green apple. That's with very well-grown grapes. I think we're getting green apple tonight.
I was going to say, I thought we had green apple, and I don't know what a gooseberry tastes like, so evidently I need to try that. So
yes, I'll bring some home. Spoiler alert, they're sour. But yes, a little green apple, which I think is in particularly well.
Now I was laughing and drinking at the same time.
A little bit of grassiness would not be out of place for this. I think I'm getting some of that. A little grassy, a little herby, certainly, kind of more on the like tarragon, the green side of herbs, tarragon, maybe a little oregano kind of thing. And then minerality to finish. So like a nice flint slate, kind of, gray, clean rock kind of, which will also make sense as we talk about more about this wine. So the, no, go ahead and stay here.
Okay.
Let's, but we've already looked at these, so let's jump back to turning that off, and I'll just talk a little bit more about my other notes about the Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay.
So Sauvignon Blanc grape. I have a real problem with that. The Sauvignon Blanc grape, like I said, indigenous to France, arrived in the United States in the 1800s. Wow. So, but very little was done with the varietal until the 1960s. So during the 1800s through the 1960s, Sauvignon Blanc, which I did not know this at all, right? I love doing this research. It was only made into sweet wine.
Really?
Yes. In the United States, it was just being made into sweet wine. So in the 1960s, a very little known, obscure winemaker named Robert Mondavi. So Robert decided to make a dry Sauvignon Blanc, more reminiscent of what was happening over in France. And he was afraid to call it Sauvignon Blanc when he brought it to market because, like, for example, right now, if I were to say to you, would you like a Riesling? Almost everyone would assume I'm talking about a sweet wine.
Right.
They don't only come in sweet, but everyone thinks of sweet first. And that's what Sauvignon Blanc was in the United States all the way through the 60s. So Mondavi didn't want to name it Sauvignon Blanc because he knew everyone would assume it was sweet. And so he came up with a new name. That was his initial idea. The secondary idea was, let me put my own spin on it. There are some places in Europe adding some oak to Sauvignon Blanc. And so he did as well. And it gave it a little bit of that smoky, elevated minerality. And so Fume Blanc was born as a name, which he did not copyright. And so everyone got to use it, and they all did. But that was how Fume Blanc came to be.
I mean, but if it's describing like a genre of wine, then that makes sense because other people, I mean,
But no one else was doing it. I mean, he invented the whole thing.
yeah,
The style of oaking
That's
it
really
in the
cool.
United States and renaming it. He could have done it. He could have locked it down, but he didn't, which is not a criticism. It's just, it is. So now people use Fume Blanc throughout the United States. It's always Sauvignon Blanc grape, but it is through that, and
with oak barrels always.
not always.
Oh, okay.
Some people just use it and they began to just say, oh, well, that's American made Sauvignon Blanc. But almost always it has oak. And honestly, I feel like it should always have oak.
If it's Fume?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my opinion. So the barrel aging adds, in addition to like the oak itself, adding a little bit of kind of richness and roundness, with what Paul was saying is like, it seems rounder and like has some weight that comes from the oak aging.
Okay.
As compared to other much lighter Sauvignon Blancs. Sauvignon Blanc is normally just acidic and very light in body, and this guy gives it a little more weight, a little more oomph, going on there. Sauvignon Blanc is best grown in cooler temperatures. You can grow it warmer, but it's, it changes quality, and it's just not at its best. So often you'll see Sauvignon Blanc where they grow Chardonnay and Pinot Noir as well.
So let me ask you about, I don't taste any vanilla, but I always associate like oak barrels with vanilla. So good
point. So why is that?
Right.
We're talking about nutrients.
I was so scared to say that too, by the way.
Oh, no, you're spot on.
Okay.
So different things, different oak has different amounts of vanillin. Vanillin is the quality that creates vanilla perception. So the American oak has a lot more effect on a wine and creates more vanilla. French oak does not. And then you can use older oak that has it's less aggressive. And that's what we're talking about here is older, more neutral oak.
Okay.
There is very little active younger oak affected on this wine.
Okay.
And that's why. So it will give it body. It will help elevate the herbacity. It'll round out the feeling on the palate, but it doesn't take over with vanillins.
Okay.
So no, that was an excellent question. It's all about cooperage. Cooperage is huge. It's so important when it's used. And this one here is basically it's fermented in a combination of big foeders, which is 900-gallon barrels. Oh my God. Huge. So you're not getting a lot of oak effect in that case. The surface to volume ratio is minimal. Oh, yeah, we got a question.
We have a question.
We'll jump in.
So I was telling Paul that I'm typically not a fan of California Sauvignon Blancs, but this one is really different. It tastes different to me. So, and when he poured it, I felt like even the color was different. So it's a little paler. I feel like sometimes some of the other California Sauvignon Blancs that I've had are slightly darker in color. I don't know. And it definitely tastes more citrusy, so I feel like I can taste more maybe like pineapple, not necessarily orange, or grapefruit like the New Zealand ones, but something more limey in this one. But it pours and looks pale in color when I think of some of the more like the Chilean Sauvignon Blancs or the New Zealand ones. So I wasn't sure if this particular vineyard or estate does something different than other California Sauvignon Blancs that maybe I had before in the past.
Yes, a good question. And yes, there is something different compared to many other Sauv Blancs from California, and that is the temperature of the grapes. So it's cooler growth, higher acidity. So this guy is a cool growth Sauvignon Blanc. A lot of the other ones, casual drinkers from California, warmer growth Sauvignon Blanc, you're going to get a lot more mandarin orange and mellowness, but you're going to have higher alcohol, you're not going to necessarily get the weight of the body because that comes from the barrel, but you get kind of a rounder, more mellow, more boozy Sauvignon Blanc, rather than this, which is got all that ability to express minerality and nuance from the grape because of that cool growth. So you've got kind of a delicate, acidic grape here, something that can express itself a little more, as long as the cooperage doesn't overtake it, which is not in this case.
And I know you're going to get to this at a certain point, because you always do during the classes, and you're talking about the grape and where the color comes from and the skin of the grape. So the coolness affects how the grape is pulling that color from the skin.
So with the coolness, what you're talking about there is it allows for slow ripening. So that way it doesn't become overly ripe, which is where you're going to get that where it jumps over and becomes too much sugar maybe, and lower acidity. But the big thing is when you become warm growth overly ripe, you're going to reduce your acidity level. So it gets plenty of sugar, which you've got to have sugar in order to get this, to get these guys to ferment. But the riper it gets, especially in a warm environment, you crash on the acidity level. And so you're not going to have that fresh brightness on there. And that's that big difference. So these guys are very cool growth. And you can tell, like, honestly, this is a very tart, acidic, fresh wine. I think without the oak, it would be beyond threshold.
Okay.
I think the oak needed to be there to round it out, because this is a very tart, fresh,
too tart,
luscious
otherwise.
wine that's making my mouth water. So, all right, let's see here. This one also is aged 6 months. So after the fermentation, which is in, they didn't say what percentage, but it's part of it is in that 900 gallon barrel. Part of it is in individual neutral barrels, but getting a little bit more of that effect. Then they blend them together and they put them in completely neutral oak barrels to lay on the lees, which is the yeast as it drops out of solution after it's done its job, but it adds a little more richness and a roundness to it as well. So it's a combination of the oak and lees aging.
Yeah, at first I thought you were saying it spent time in that huge barrel and then was moved to but you're saying it's split up.
Yep.
That part of it goes to the giant barrels and part of it goes to like normal cooperage, and then they blend it together.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and then they give it some lees aging, which once again speaks to me. You've got barrel aging around this. You've got lees aging on here, and this guy is still a tart, crisp wine.
Yeah, it really needed it. Then you're right. It would be so puckery.
Perfectly said.
Yeah, I don't know what the word
no,
is.
No, it
for
would
that,
be. I honestly think it would be overly acidic without it.
Yeah.
But,
Overly acidic.
there you go.
Or too puckered.
Without the blending, it would be overly acidic?
Without the barrel aging and the lees aging.
So tell me they sell the unblended, just the oak aged?
No, they don't.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
I would like to taste that.
Let's taste it just to compare. Like, here it is, just zing. Yeah. I mean, I've had some before that were just, I call it razor acidity, because it feels like it's kind of cutting your tongue. And that's usually from France. I'll get it there, Burgundy, and I've had some, some Burgundian shards that I literally right now, razor acidity. It's like, it's kind of like it races across the tongue, and it's like a little paper cut with lemon squeezed into it. And honestly, I find it to be a bit much.
Wow.
I've had lots of wines, and, and some of them have quite the pedigree, but it doesn't mean I enjoy all of them. So, yeah. C'est la vie. All right. Onward
Next
and
one?
upward. Yes, please.
Okay. Oops. Here we go.
Okay.
Next.
Yep, please. All right. So here we have the anatomy. So clearly in this guy, so we have the outer skin, not as important. I mean, certainly with the flavors of the minerality and the citric flavors that we're getting, the herbacity, that's coming from the skin. But a lot of what we're getting is that tart freshness, which is coming from inside the grape. So this grape in particular has a lot of, a lot of the importance of what we're tasting comes from inside the grape, which with reds, a lot of times the inside of the grape is more of just a sugar transportation system in order for us to get alcohol, and that all the real character comes from the skin. But in this case, it's more of an all over, it's a whole berry work of art. How about that?
So that is true of most whites,
yes,
right? Okay.
Yes, that's right. With white wines, you're really talking about like a whole berry performance rather than with many reds, not all, but many reds. It's so much, the skin is so important.
Right.
And then what's inside is more of just a transportation system to get the sugar, to get the alcohol that you want. So, but so it's kind of, kind of fun to think of it that way. It's like white wines are this whole berry performer.
Well, it's interesting because I mean, I usually think of reds as being much more complex than whites, but I mean, they're kind of a one-trick pony when it comes to like the anatomy of it, because it is the skin almost all the time that you're getting that character from. This has, you've got a lot more play and dependence upon the actual grape itself, not just the exterior.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you were to go with the closest red that would behave in this way, Pinot Noir.
Right.
That's why it's so hard to grow. Yeah. Yeah, because it's getting character from the skin, but they're very important. Acidity is very important to Pinots to keep them fresh. So I mean, nobody ever drank a Pinot, or should, and thought, are these dried grapes? That's not what Pinot is about. So. Okay. All right. Wine growing latitudes. Here we are, right basically in the dead center of the growing latitude. Makes total sense, especially when you take in the maritime influence. So keeps it nice and cool, dry, sunny. Dry is one of the most important aspects of wine growing. You cannot get mold all over everything. USA wine regions. All right, so I think I might do this now rather than later. I had this whole point that we're going to cover. So we are moving toward Napa Valley, all right, tonight, which isn't shocking nobody, right? It was in the title. So we're heading over to Napa. So in USA wine regions, Napa Valley became an AVA, American Viticultural Area, in 1981. It was the second American Viticultural Area. The first one was Augusta, Missouri.
What?
Yeah, right.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah. The first American viticultural area established was Augusta, Missouri.
Do you know when it was established?
No.
Okay. Because you said Napa was 1981.
But I'm pretty sure that it was not long before.
Oh, okay. I was like,
yeah, no, there wasn't just one hanging out.
Before we were in California?
Yeah, no, there wasn't one just hanging out.
Before Lewis and Clark?
I think there were no AVAs.
Okay.
And then they established Missouri first.
Okay.
But Missouri fascinates me. It does. It absolutely fascinates me.
Yeah,
I need to learn more about Missouri.
That's interesting.
But anyway, I thought that was kind of cool. So here we are, heading over to California, North Coast, Napa. Here we are, North Coast. So we are in the Napa Sonoma area, which are these guys. Napa's here. Go a little closer. Napa. So Napa, which is one of my favorite things about Napa, is that it's colder south to north.
Really?
Yeah. So because of San Pablo Bay,
that makes
it's
sense.
actually cooler here. This is the warmest area of Napa. This is the coolest area of Napa.
That would be hard to wrap your head around. Like if you moved there thinking it's reversed, just like if you moved to the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, right. It's true. It's like if we moved to Napa,
right,
you would want to live here.
Okay.
And I would want to live here.
We could visit in the middle of times.
I was like, look, I want to live in Carneros. We'll meet together in Rutherford in the middle.
There you go.
So here we have jumping in. Elizabeth's up in Calistoga.
We have some chat. Let me see what it's not showing. We'll have to look at the chat after we're out of the share because there we go. Now it should. Oh, Mizzou was 1980. So
1980. Well, right before. Well, there we go. Thank you very much.
Cool. All right.
So, all right. So what we're doing, so Rutherford is where Grgich Hills Winery is located. And we talked about that last week. And in fact, the wine we drank from last week, the Zinfandel, was from this area. Valley floor, warm area, that kind of a thing. But because they wanted cooler growth for the Sauv Blancs, we are actually down in Carneros, the most southern tip here. So they own this, they do control it. So we're talking about this is a single vineyard estate wine. It's a high level of control, high level of quality. What I love about
every aspect then.
They do.
Yeah.
So they are growing their own stuff down here. They're not buying it. Carneros is where it is, which is the coolest area of Napa. What I think is also really cool about Carneros is that Carneros is in Napa and Sonoma. There's Carneros Sonoma and Carneros Napa, and both of which are full of Pinot and Chard and Sauv Blanc, Riesling, which we'll see here. There's Riesling grown alongside these guys because it's cool enough.
Sure.
All right, that's, now we're moving into the winery itself. Well, let's jump back if we need to answer any questions.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about Napa a little bit. So that was one thing I didn't. So Napa, the most prestigious growing region in the United States. So officially designated in 1981, really came into being in the 60s. Growing temperatures in the growing seasons, low 90s in the day, and then the mid 50s at night. Going to be a little cooler in Carneros, but call it 5 degrees off and that kind of a thing. Not night and day. It is night and day. But anyway, Napa's coolest south to north. Already covered that guy. Part of that is San Pablo Bay because of the fogs and the cool breezes coming in from the Pacific and San Pablo Bay. Then let's see. It is a very small AVA. It only produces 3.25% of the wine for the country, and yet people talk about Napa, as if it's all everything.
Wow.
It's only 3.25% of the wine produced in the United States.
That's very surprising.
Right.
So what does American viticulture area mean? Like, what does that?
It's just an area of specific viticultural quality or character.
So we're trying to designate areas just like they have like in France.
Right.
And
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's saying, look, something grown in Napa does taste of Napa.
Okay.
Yeah. And, there's a terroir expression. And, and once again, I'll cover terroir again. It's not just the dirt. It's the dirt and the amount of sunlight and the wind and the temperatures. So it's everything. It's terroir is all things affecting.
So is this like a board is going around like deciding this, or the area has to apply to become an area?
They have to apply.
So, okay.
Yes.
So it's all the grape growers or wineries in that area have to say, or most of them.
Yes.
We want to be designated.
They do. And they often have like somebody that'll be the cheerleader, and he'll get support, and they will do the work and write it all up.
Okay.
But it is an application process.
So you have like a lobbyist for that then.
You do, saying, look, here's what we have. This is what we make. This is why it's unique.
We're special. Okay.
Yeah. And then that way, and then they apply for that.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So we covered Napa. All right, let's go.
What governing body do they apply to?
The wine governing body.
Do you know the name of it?
No.
No.
Well, it
Probably
depends.
the
Like
AVA something.
Well, and because yes, I'm sure there is a governing body at the United States level, but there's sub bodies within California, and they've set up a whole bunch of ones. I should know this, and I will tell you I should be able to answer that question, and I can't. So, but yes, good question. I don't know.
Now you have some homework.
No, that's all right. I'll look it up.
Keep
I have no
coming
ego.
back to tastings and you'll find out.
That's right. I don't mind admitting that there's more to learn.
Sure.
There's so much more to learn. So
You would like for me to share, you said?
yes, please.
Okay.
So this is where the winemakers are, with So not the vineyard so much as the winery. And some of the views from the winery. So Grgich Hills Estate Winery, founded in 1977 by Mike Grgich and Austin Hills. Austin Hills of the Hills Brothers Coffee family was the money side and the business side. Mike Grgich was from, actually he's done quite a bit, but most recently before they started the Grgich Hills Estate was with Chateau Montelena and created the Chardonnay that won as best Chardonnay in the Judgment of Paris against against all the French wines. So rocked the world, threw everything on its ear, and everyone realized that Napa Valley makes amazing wines.
And he got to write his ticket.
He got to write his ticket.
next,
Yeah. I mean, that was it. Everyone was bidding for him,
Mhm.
and Austin Hills got him.
Yeah.
And that was great. So it's not Grgich Hills. Sounds like, oh, it's about the hills. No,
Right.
it's Grgich and Hills. It's both surnames.
And if you were here last week, we did cover this, but we're covering it again for the people that weren't here.
Just in
last week,
case.
then.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the Judgment of Paris was that competition between Napa and the best of all of France in 1976. And the Americans won. No one expected that. They thought it was going to be something to shut the Americans up. And instead the Americans, because it was a blind tasting,
Right.
Otherwise they never would have given it the ratings. It was a blind tasting and they won
And I liked the movie about it. Evidently, it was not critically acclaimed, but I liked it.
the movie was good. It was
Yeah.
fun. I mean, I felt badly because for whatever reason, Mike Grgich didn't like
He wasn't a
something
character
about
in it.
Yeah,
right.
like he refused to sign on. So
Mhm.
Mike Grgich is not in it,
Right.
and he should be.
Right.
But I don't know what it was that he didn't like. But I mean, he's a much older gentleman at that
Right.
point.
Just
I don't know.
just
what it
know
was.
that if you watch the movie, and I can't remember the name of it, but about the Judgment of Paris, that
Bottle
Grgich-
Shock.
Bottle Shock. That's
Mhm.
right. He is the one that created it. He's just not a character because they had creative differences.
They
or
did
something.
for whatever
Mhm.
reason, which
Yeah.
it makes me sad. But anyway, so Mike is still involved, still alive, and but now it's being run by the current president of the winery is Violet Grgich, which is his granddaughter.
I think they're in the next picture.
Yeah, let's
right?
go on. Yeah,
Well, maybe
there
not
was
now.
Grgich Hills, which looks lush,
And then
sustainable,
and,
organic.
you know, it's beautiful, and I love that the wine train goes right by
Right,
there.
Well, here you can see they're on the valley floor because you can see
Mhm.
the mountains rising to the side there,
Right.
which would flank them on both sides.
So before we go on to like who
Mhm.
runs it now, do you want to talk about the difference between like the valley floor and because I think you talked about that last week, but I don't know if you want to. Okay.
Well, I mean,
No? Okay.
the bottom line, the valley floor is going to have a lot more lusciousness. And so you're going to get more Cabernet Sauvignon, Zinfandel, and everything on the valley floor because it's going to get more heat, longer heat,
Mhm.
and more sun during the day because you can even see how hazy the hills are
Right.
over there. And there's wine being grown in them
Right,
hills.
right.
But so the hills are cooler,
Mhm.
more wind, and gives you thicker skins, and it gives you a different quality
Okay.
rather than that rich, big lusciousness.
So this one isn't being grown on the floor then?
This one is way down in Carneros, which is kind of very different.
Okay.
You know,
All right.
so this applies more to the things right around their winery, which
Mhm.
is the Zinfandel and the Cab and that kind
Okay.
of thing. Mhm. All right, so here's Mike.
There she's running.
There's
it.
Violet,
Yeah, there's
who's now the
Mike.
president of the company.
Mhm.
And then his nephew, which is Ivo Jeremans, but he is his nephew. So even though he doesn't share the surname, he's the VP of Vineyards and Production. He actually started in 1986, if I remember correctly. He started as a young man who came over and then has worked there ever since. Learned from Mike, and then gone to get a little bit of official education as well. Sustainable and organic production, 100% estate grown grapes, always from Grgich Hills. And single vineyard sourcing, like I told you that before. The name of the vineyard that we're drinking from is the American Canyon. And then you can see the blend here. So we have Sauv Blanc, Chardonnay. It's just all blended together. And then a little Merlot, because Merlot likes it a little cooler too, in order to get kind of the best out of it. The sand, the soil rather is sand, loam, a little bit of clay, and slate in the subsoil.
Okay, so
and we
that's
talked
what
about
we're
that
getting at,
minerality
right.
that's coming up.
Right.
So when those vines, which were planted in the 90s, which we see here, they're planted. So they reach down and they grab that slate and they're pulling up the qualities.
My glass is empty.
It's a terrible thing.
Intermission, just a moment.
That's right. But you know what? She asked for more. That means it's good, everybody.
That's good. Well, although it doesn't mean it's not good if I don't ask for more. Normally he just pours it.
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, this looks like a wonderful place to visit. I think we should put it on our list that when we set up the Tipple's Travels.
Yes, exactly.
Hey, I just made that up right now.
It's good.
Tipple's
I
Travels.
like it.
Well, we'll have it out together. Wine scores. So we're talking about, I believe I was talking about 90 to 92 on a regular basis on this guy. So according to wine reviews, we're talking about an outstanding wine of superior character and style, as opposed to say very good with special qualities, or good, a solid, well-made wine, or a classic. Part of that is all a combination of, it's emerging, which we've talked about this before, of, here we go. It's emerging of what other Sauvignon Blanc have you had? What other Napa Sauvignon Blanc have you had? That kind of a thing. So it kind of all comes together, which is where those ratings come from. So now comes that time, right? You want to do the text voting?
Sure. So if you will go ahead and put your score in the chat box.
And do you want, if you need us to put the scores back up, because I didn't put them up very long for the rating descriptions, just
we can
tell
do
us.
that. We'll share the screen again.
We'll do that. Then you guys can.
And you can type it in the
step
chat box how you feel about it. Okay. So 80 to 90. Sorry, 89 to 90.
Okay. And so right there.
91 to 92.
Okay.
They had it with salmon. So
Nice.
91s from both Paul and Linda.
Nice.
90. Brenda says 89. The rest, I don't know what that means. OD.
The rest of it.
Okay.
But 89, 90,
89,
good with
90.
special qualities, good overall.
And
Nice.
Robin says 90. So,
The rest of us
yeah.
say 92. Okay.
Oh, okay,
That's
great. 89, but we were clueless and had fun chewing cod.
Hey, you know what? That works.
Yeah.
That totally works. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, I would have said 90. I really like it. Obviously, I asked for more, and I'm not a white fan.
True.
So
Right.
yeah.
Good point.
But I really like it because it doesn't taste like a vanilla bomb. So there you go. I mean,
But it does it. It has freshness. It has character.
yeah.
That makes me very happy.
And I like the tart taste. Like if I'm talking about like beers, sours are my favorite. So
Duck beers.
Yeah, I mean that goes along. So I would have said 90. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I'd call it 91. I
And
just want to bump it a little.
I think I would bump it with a food pairing.
Yes.
Yeah. So for me, I think if I'm eating with sushi or with salmon or something like that, that food pairing would
Cod,
definitely bump it up for me.
Yep. No, I'm with you 100%. I think it's got character. It's delicious. It's really speaking from where it comes from. So it's giving us that translation of terroir to glass, which makes me happy.
Oh, sure.
So yeah, I would call it like an easy 91, which I think is right there with all the rest of us. And it's a great wine.
Okay, so
I do love the Grgich stuff. So
the Tuckers, if I get to count how it was with food, 91. We usually don't like whites. Me too. But these are great combinations. Yeah.
There you go.
And then the Snyders are suggesting instead of the traveling Wilburys will be the traveling Tipples.
There we go.
Yep.
Traveling
Tipplers.
The traveling tipplers. Don't let us drive.
There you go. No, we'll take the wine train.
Hey.
Nobody has to drive. There you go.
Even better.
Ready?
Yes, please. All right. So next week.
Oh, wait. Hold on. We shouldn't have done that.
Oh.
We're going to stop the share just a moment.
Okay.
before we actually talk about next week,
Yes.
do you have any more questions? or
Final
comments?
observations
Yeah,
and
observations
questions.
about this wine this week.
Thank God you do that. I need to write that on my thing.
No, everybody.
I like it a lot. It's there's a lot of, I do agree with a lot of the things I said a lot earlier, though, like the oakiness I think does round it out and make it super balanced. By coincidence, like total coincidence, like a couple of days ago we had the Robert Mondavi Fume Blanc. Like we happened to have one. I was like, well, this is good. I think this will go well. And then I was like, oh wait, what's the one of this week? And I was like, oh, this we're having in like 2 days. And I was like, great, let's go ahead and have this now. This was kind of like a fun, like,
Yeah.
okay, like,
Comparison.
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I tell you, we owe a lot to Robert Mondavi. He was an amazing, amazing winemaker and trailblazer out in California. It is,
Yeah, I've created a whole style.
yeah,
Right?
it's just, it's a real shame that there's, with that breaking up after his passing, that there's some that are not great and some that are really great.
Right.
And so anyway, but yeah, Mondavi, what a,
So when I first tried this, I didn't like it when it was cold.
Okay.
Oh, you liked it warmer?
Oh, we froze.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna tell you, like now that it's had a little time out, I mean, it's definitely even better.
Sure. And I know you did freeze just a moment. You want to
Yeah.
try? Yeah.
So when we first opened it, I didn't like it. I said to Jerry, I was like, ooh, not a fan. And then 15 minutes later, 10 minutes later, bite of salmon, and I loved it. So, and then as it warmed up, it like lemongrass came out big time for me.
Oh yeah.
And peach too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was tasting peach as well.
Right. That
too.
that tart white peach kind of going on,
yeah,
right? Yeah. Like now that it's warmed up and it's opened, I'm getting a really nice lemongrass, white peach, tarragon, herbal, combo, which is delicious. And I love a wine that evolves. You know me, I'm a sucker for it. But this guy's really a delicious wine, a complex, wonderful white, and it's one of my favorite whites. So
I really like it.
I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean,
I don't even know what to do right now.
I do want, Harriet did say that they would drop off some food to us one of these Tuesdays. So we would have a pairing with it.
Oh, Tuesdays are so hard.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I love, this is my fun, but
right.
it's just all
It's
day.
just a long day
It's
for
ordering
both of
day.
us.
So yeah.
And then
we talked about what we could make for you guys.
that's very
That's
sweet.
Very
Because
sweet.
you missed Jerry's ribs at the potluck.
We
So-
did.
Oh yeah.
We did. But I did have some more of your jam today on my seed bread. It was really
Oh, I made blueberry mango today, like I told you I was thinking about. I did
Oh,
it.
fantastic because she made mango peach that I've been putting on toast and it's so good. You want to stop before we talk about that? too
that's
much.
right. We're
That's
gonna,
for the after
that's
party.
for the after party. Let's on point to finish.
Toast and say goodbye.
Okay.
All right.
Cheers,
No,
everyone.
don't
No,
not
oh,
cheers.
Sorry, you can't find out what the wine is.
Not yet. No, we gotta
Okay.
talk about the wine of the week next
Oh
week.
no.
Yeah. Here
All
we
right.
go.
Next week. So here we have the Tenuta delle Terre Nere. All right, from Etna in Sicily. We're going back to Sicily. We're drinking a red blend that is a blend of indigenous grapes.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I'm not gonna try and say them now. I will work on it for next week.
Practice
All
them for
right.
next time.
However, wow. All right, 94 points, James
I
Suckling.
mean, that's one of our higher ones, if not the highest one. we've
It's
had. Yeah,
right. I just had this wine on Monday morning to start my week, and I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?" So they basically have nicknamed themselves the Burgundy of Italy, which I thought that's a lot to live up to. Burgundy of Italy. Yes. All right.
Really?
Just
Okay.
I'm going to tell everybody, please join us. Do yourself a favor, and you're welcome. This is a fantastic wine. So I won't get into too many descriptions because I want to be able to talk about it next
Right.
week. But Italian meat sauces, meat sauce dishes, barbecue, venison. Oh my God, I really wanted like you remember the Sovereign with venison and hunter sauce?
Oh, it
with
was
mushrooms?
fantastic, but it's been so long since
Oh,
the
it's
Sovereign's
been
been
so
open,
long.
so.
But anyway, that's what I wanted with this. It's really great. So
I
yeah.
think that was the last time I had, no, it wasn't the last time I had venison. I had venison from one of our hunter friends, so, yeah.
You know, you guys can show up and, you know, you can tell me, you know, boo, you don't know what you're talking about. But then again, James Suckling wouldn't know either. So I feel
Yeah.
good. I feel confident in my
Do you?
position that this is a fantastic wine. And then go to one last thing, because it's a new thing, a new slide I
Okay.
want to add. Thank you so much to our sources, Wine Folly, Grgich Hills Winery, and Quentin Sadler for the maps and the information.
Yeah,
that I
fantastic
referenced.
images.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so let's we can stop sharing,
And we can cheers.
and we will toast to
Cheers.
Grgich Hills Fume Blanc deliciousness.
Cheers, everyone.
Beautifully done, Grgich.
Mhm.